ladies, hey fellas, and all of you who want to learn ROIC. Today we are going to look at a company called LLY. Probably a lot of you have heard about them. Big company. Did well in the S&P 500 this past month. So I'm going to show you a little nugget I found, which has a big impact to ROIC. And you see this applied in current liabilities. It's basically, to kind of spoil it, I probably spoiled it in the title anyway. It's when a company has a free float, and that makes them, makes growing and scaling easier when you have a free float. Gives you a lot of options as a business, and it's helping ROIC. Okay, now let's go back here. Property and equipment. I'm getting lost because there's lots of line items. Goodwill. Tangibles. And we are almost done on the vested capital side. Look, sales, rebates, and discounts. 11.7 billion. I'm putting that in non-interest bearing current liabilities. What we're going to do, because that's a judgment call, it's not in our standard spreadsheet, so it's a judgment call we have to make. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fill everything out, and then we're going to double check that particular line item, see what they say in the 10K, and then that will help us decide whether we want to include that or exclude that. Now it can get confusing because I am doing this on the operating side, calculating invested capital on the operating side. A lot of websites are going to talk about calculating on the financing side. You got to be careful when they say exclude, include, all those things. It depends if you're talking about operating approach or you're talking about the financing approach. So we're going to go back and we're going to look up the sales rebates thing. Okay, I just saw it. Here is the background, okay? Largest equals rebates associated with sales. That's not what I wanted. Come on, where was it? I saw it earlier. Okay, here we go. Reductions in revenues. So we think about this for a second. Here it is. The rebate and discount amounts are recorded as a deduction to arrive at their net product revenue. So if you're familiar with that, basically they're going to have a revenue that they're bringing in, and then they deduct rebates, and that gets them the net revenue, which is what they put in the financials as their top line income. So if we think about what that means, is basically they're getting more cash than what they're selling it for net, and then they're giving that money back as a rebate. And so that's why it accrues as a liability. And because if you read through the notes, they say how it like 90% gets converted in that year. So because it gets converted in that year, you get it as a short-term current liability instead of a long-term liability. But we include it in this calculation for operating approach, which reduces the invested capital and makes the ROIC this nice 16%, a higher ROIC, because that is free float. They're getting it for anywhere between a month to 12 months, and that's cash that they can use, and they can invest in other parts of the business, grow the business, and then make those payments later on. Every little bit of float helps, and that's what can sometimes separate the capital efficient companies from those that aren't as capital efficient. And so if we were to exclude this in our invested capital, ROIC drops. So in this case, for this business, it's a significant amount. And so that's why I am basically including it in invested capital, and it is a subtraction to invested capital. And that helps the ROIC of the business. It's more capital efficient, and that's an appropriate representation of the capital efficiency of the business. Hope that helps. Any other questions or comments, you can tweet them. I'm sure you will. All right, later.